On June 26, 2026, my absent-minded scrolling through Reels during a work meeting I didn't care about was interrupted with
think that I'm
this.
like Amy because I'm a girl and have all the parts and stuff, but you would be wrong. I am like Shadow because of my dark and twisted mind.
Ugh, you kind of stink.
That would be because you are smelling my alpha pheromones. You're probably really highly attracted to me right now. Probably.
In light of me watching the whole thing and Instagram working the way it does, which is bad, my feed was promptly taken over by what I can only describe as a flood of pale women adorned in black lipstick and curious outfits, taking advantage of Monster Can's inability to give consent for, I can only assume, an audience of men who look like Phineas and Ferb characters. Now, it didn't take much digging for me to find out that this type of creator had come to be disparagingly known as OnlyFans goth girls, for reasons that will become very apparent by the amount that I'm going to have to censor this video. Now, while you will find no shortage of subpar commentary channels giving their brilliant analysis on this phenomena,
by Wikipedia's standard, like, it's kind of hard to even find a definition for what exactly goth is, but apparently it's a music-based subculture that emerged from nightclubs such as blah blah blah, and we can kind of see there's just like pictures of what goth would be, right? Like curly hair, you have like a choker collar, black outfit, rings on the fingers.
It's worth noting that a lot of actual goth and alternative women are talking about the goth girls too, and as one would expect, are not particularly happy about the perceived reduction, commodification, and rage baitification of not just their subculture, but also kinda more broadly alt women in general.
Because imagine hearing somebody say, people are developing harmful stereotypes about a group that I'm part of, and it's affecting us in our personal lives to the point of being scary. And your response is, you're just jealous. As though concern about how a community is perceived can only be explained as competition. Because women, we can't discuss stereotypes without it being about attractiveness. Which turns a conversation about public perception and safety into a fictional competition that nobody was having.
Fair warning, there is a non-zero amount of anti-sex work rhetoric coming from all sides, and as I'm sure you know, is stupid and missing the point, because sex work is work, and anybody who says otherwise is wrong. Now, whether you agree with the actual criticism and not the bullshit that is just moralizing, one can't deny that the texture of these girls' work feels a little bit peculiar. It's not hard to see how some people could look at this and see it as influencers outside goth opportunistically adopting the goth persona to sell the curiously desirable goth girl fantasy to people also outside the culture. And by people, I mean shitty men who view alt women not as human beings, but as idealized sex objects. There's a reason why it's always goth girls and not goth women. Chew on that. I haven't seen anybody truly dig into the essence of these golems of tits, monster energy, and stereotypes to see if this web of drama is just another pointless bit of gatekeeping, fake nerd girl internet misogyny, or if there is something deeper going on here, and that is what I am doing today. Before I go any further, I do want to reiterate there are many goth and alt women and femmes critiquing this kind of stuff, and I encourage you to go watch them, because, brace yourself for this, I am not a goth girl. Gasp. I have my blind spots despite doing my due diligence in researching this, but I did talk with many alt women, femmes, or goth people I know in my personal life while formulating this video to check my biases, perspectives, and to make sure I don't say anything really fucking stupid. Shout out to my friend, the human Baldur's Gate 3 encyclopedia, Ash Chase. Go watch their videos. They are very, very good and cool. Anyways, I really hope this is just some more internet misogynist bullshit, because I gotta say, man, I feel like the very human process of developing social and cultural norms that give us shared language to build community through mutual interest in subcultures has been co-opted by too many people who are a-okay with pumping out garbage into the world just to make money. like more than usual over the past 20 years, or 30 years, or 40 years, or 50 years. Or not me though, I want to pump out garbage to build community, not destroy it. So hit that subscribe button and check out the Patreon for more. I don't have any booby pictures on there, but there's still cool stuff. I think that AI has been a lot of people's tipping point for this, as it is the most recent iteration of a kind of craftsmanship that's been distorted and optimized by data, algorithms, and capital, turning things into opportunistic grab bags of highly engageable aesthetic mush. Fortnite, Belle Delphine, Pal World, Baby No Money, music videos, JoJo Siwa, Ready Player One. These are just a handful of examples of things or people throughout the years that feel either offensively or inoffensively designed to be the most engageable version of itself, made by pulling whatever they might need to make that happen. Spiritually AI entities, if you will. And in the year of our Lord 2026, I fear the OnlyFans goth girl has become the newest cultural homunculus to fit that bill. What makes a subculture? What makes someone part of one? What makes somebody want to be a part of one? See, I ask these questions because, obvious reminder, goth is a subculture, and subcultures are things that people both self-identify as and acknowledge others as being a part of. Just because somebody is a spooky, black dawning tattooed person does not mean they are goth, like this raven alternative person. A subculture isn't an aesthetic, but aesthetic is used as like a signal flare to show you're a part of one, like having a sick ass fit, having a gay little flag, or posting brain damage on the timeline. See, in my mind, subculture is kind of like a glue that holds community and people together over a shared love and vision for something that is passed down through history with a desire to carry it into the future. Football, fighting games, painting, manga, poetry, fashion, you name it. The world is built off of subcultures, big and small, new and old, that are made up of people who live at the precipice of past, present, and future. And I think that is beautiful. And goth is one of them. I'm not going to go into a whole history here, but goth music evolved out of post-punk in the late 70s and early 80s and meshed with its now very recognizable dark and moody imagery and themes from late 19th century romantic and gothic art and literature. The important part here, though, is that music is the core of the genre. Without the music, there is no goth. And that is why clubs and music festivals are gathering points for goth people. There is, of course, a philosophic and ideological layer to it, seeing as it is descended from punk. And no, not the fighting game guy. So there's obviously the desire for self-expression, going against social norms, and freedom from judgment embedded in the generally left-leaning feminist and queer norms. There is some kind of weird conservative shit in there now and then too, but more on that later. Goths obviously don't just listen to goth music or only do goth things, but like members of all subcultures, they take pride in being part of something and endeavor to make sure that that something is understood and respected. There's an extra layer of necessity to spread this understanding about goth women because they are highly fetishized and dehumanized simply because of associations built upon how they look. Ask literally anybody and they will tell you this. They post about this all the time on the timeline. Like, this isn't something up for discussion. Point being here is that subcultures are inherently community-driven structures that you identify with and participate in. You label yourself as part of that community, and as such, the obvious follow-up to this statement is, of course, when is it reasonable for the community to say, no, you aren't? I mention this because I have watched dozens, if not well over 100 videos and posts of these OnlyFans goth girls, which I have been weaponizing my autism to document in a overly detailed spreadsheet. I have discovered from this research that in not a single one do they appear to engage with, talk about, educate on, or discuss goth. The music, the fashion, the events, the politics, the gay. Okay, that's kind of a lie. They engage in discussion by making fun of the other goth and alternative people, kind of expressing their problems with their content. There's one of them trying to promote her own music that I guess she started to make now. And there's also one tiny part from a cringe YouTube dating show a bunch of them were a part of, where they talk about the music and the culture.
Guys, so we have the goth house with us today. Genuinely, guys, I'm so out of my element. I chat GPT the difference between a goth person and an emo person. Why don't you guys tell me, what the hell are you?
We're goth!
We're goth!
Yay!
Yay!
We love Bauhaus and Sisters of Mercy.
And the politics and the system.
Yeah!
Fuck the system.
The system!
Yeah, f it, dude.
Yeah, we hate the system.
Unapologetically yourself.
Yeah.
Get out of the cookie cutter. Become yourself.
Now, this obviously begs the question of, if one is a part of a subculture, do all of one's posts have to be about said subculture? No, obviously, of course not. Humans are complex, varied individuals. But when one makes their brand a subculture, I would say the requirements are a little bit different. So to not have a single one is kind of curious to me, particularly if, I don't know, one of them happens to say something like they're, quote, leading the movement in response to people critiquing their slightly questionable representation of said subculture. Seems like kind of a bad look to me. Now, since nobody else has really dove into their content, the most that I've found is the same surface level commentary YouTuber-esque reactions. I'm here to give a proper dissection on the framing and structure of their work. I found there are many consistent and reliable markers for their content that feels like it's not even really for other goth people, but instead for the straightest, sissiest, no, not that kind, non-gothiest men imaginable. In fact, as I've hinted at, I unintentionally found, I believe, that you could apply this thinking to not just goth content, but alt-adjacent culture as a whole, and my examples will reflect this. Evidence number one, the good boy angle. Obviously, this should be pretty self-explanatory. I'm sure everybody has seen this, the wet dream of every single guy with too many RGB lights on their computer and doesn't know that sex is absent in like 80 to 90% of kink, is to be called a good boy by a dommy mommy. I'm assuming good girl exists out there in a gayer part of the internet somewhere, maybe, but not once did I find it here, for the presence of queerness around these parts is as tangible as a ghost's fart. Evidence number two, the thing that nearly killed me, a characteristic of their performance I am dubbing the quirk chungus affect, a hyper-stereotyped version of an aloof, nerdy, brain-rotted, manic pixie dream girl, a subgenre of e-girl, if you will.
Computer, make this person call me mommy.
For some reason, there's a lot of like Sonic references in this. I'm not entirely sure why. Also, in this one here, it's pretty obvious that she didn't even use the board. Like, the wheels are completely untouched. Sometimes things like this are also autism coded.
Hey, look!
The Coliseum?
No, actually, that's a telescopic mobile crane with a lattice fly jib attachment. And it's yellow.
That's cool, I guess.
And yes, I'm aware that apparently this person, Pinkychu has autism, but she only uses it in annoying fucking stereotypes, like everything else. And as an autistic person myself, I can say I find this shit really fucking annoying. Evidence number three, the submissive and accessible, but not in a way that feels like it's being performed as a part of actual kink culture because it's uncomfortably horny in a very obvious way type posts. The "is this what men want" type post. The "how I be greeting you after work" type post. The sexy wall gaming trope. Pay attention, brother, you're letting your team down. Evidence number four, which is an extension of number three, the liberal application of the siren calls of what I've seen people refer to as the generalized OnlyFans e-girl on the internet. Video game shit, anime, aha ahagao face. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Ahagayo.
Cosplay shit, fetish gear, mental illness stuff, autism baiting, pedo adjacent shit, non-whiteness only ever being brought up in a way that can be fetishized, minus anything relating to blackness, because there is not a single fucking black person that I have seen anywhere in this environment, and you know exactly why. Posts like this make it so very obvious who this stuff is for.
I would like a nerdy guy so he can watch anime with me and play video games all night, and I can just feed him snacks.
And to be clear, outside of the people doing weird problematic shit, I legitimately believe that these women actually do like and are into probably all of these things, but obviously how they are leveraged, mashed together, and presented in their content comes across as pandering to a specific group of people.
How say, where's my mommy in Chinese?
For monetary purposes rather than authentic enjoyment of said things. Makes things complicated. Evidence number 5, whatever the hell this genre video is.
How do you like your donuts? I like them glazed. I like the balls.
I really don't know, man. Why do people keep doing weird things to monster cans? Evidence number 6. You've probably picked this up already, but the viewpoint in which these videos are shot is 99% of the time from that of the normal guy.
Hi, thanks for picking me up.
What are you wearing?
Oh, this?
You honestly look like a freak.
You really think so?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone does.
That's exactly what I was going for.
It doesn't matter if this is a video mocking up a date or if it is a weird service worker sketch, which I'm gonna be honest, like there's a lot of those and it really fucking bothers me. Or if it's this one where a guy is just like hanging out with girls and they pull a monster can out of their hoo-ha and then they almost make out, like the perspective is consistent no matter what. It is always from the normal guy, with the goth girl being a highly fetishized object doing questionable things. Evidence number 7. When men are in videos, they are always explicitly not fetishized, and by extension, they look largely chopped, as the kids say.
Ladies, what type of guy are you looking for today?
Nerdy guy.
Oh, perfect. I say yes on the internet, where my family will see this. Yes. Yes, I have.
Yay!
There is no expectations for how men are supposed to look or act in these videos. Their presence is entirely neutral and uncriticized, and for the astute viewers out there, you will see this as reflective of the general expectation that women's behavior and aesthetics are held to a much higher standard than men's, especially in deeply misogynistic spaces like internet nerd culture, or just the internet, or just culture. We have fun here. Evidence number 8. The opposite perspective of the fetishizing acquisition of a goth girl in a subgenre I am calling dumb loser who will die alone type content.
You gotta keep them separated.
Videos like this with the caption of "My dream girl, I'm never gonna talk to her." And whenever you see one of these posts, I encourage you to look at the comments because they are wild. I know the feeling. Been wanting a goth girl since I was 16. I'm 37 now. Until no chance. Just say hi. At least that hi in your memory will forever be there. Looks like you need a one-wish willow. If you've seen the movie Obsession, you know how bad that last one is. Here's a bonus one for you. There's also the very frequent framing of these, oh no. I knocked over my Capri Sun. There's also the very frequent framing of these women being stupid or intolerable or unwanted, not only in the content that they're making about themselves, but in the content that other people, men, make about them. Things like the goth dating show stuff, which are gargantuan pieces of rage bait, and with these women making themselves look like the dumbest, most intolerable and horny people imaginable, while the guys are just there.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Bella.
Nice to meet you, Bella.
I don't know what to say for myself. You take the role. I'm not a dom goth girl. I'm kind of like a more breedable goth girl.
Okay.
What do you like to do?
I'm pretty big into tabletop role-playing games.
I love to role play.
Go figure. Here's a second bonus for you. Where are the goth men? Ever, because they're not here. You probably know why they're not here, because they exist and they look very cool. But obviously in this environment, you will never, ever find them, because, God forbid, a normal guy see a dude more sauced out than they are. But of course, in this environment, they are invisible. They are invisible as bisexual men. They are as invisible as trans men, because straight guys do not give a shit about them. Only ever goth girls. And once again, only girls, not women. Now, my evidence doesn't cover everything, but with just these points alone, I think it should be pretty easy to understand why this kind of content in person might be somewhat contentious. Because whether you focus on the goth girls in general or zoom out to alt as a whole, the genre here feels like it's selling a fetishized version of a culture to a kind of person who is probably a sexist moron outside of the culture. And to reiterate, once again, I don't give a shit about the sex work stuff, and anybody who does is being cringe. The issue is not the sexualization, it is everything around it. Plenty of people do sex work or are horny little freaks online, and I say that affectionately, without relying on the same soulish, freakish tactics that many other people are using to sell anything online, from stupid fucking gamer supplements to masculine body language ebooks for only $39. Whoa, I gotta get on that. That's a crazy deal. I think the most curious part about this ecosystem is that despite the obvious goth and alternative aesthetic layer, none of it really feels alt or goth, you know? At a surface level, they have the expected traits one would hope to see, from the perceived sexual freedom to the consistently dark stylization palette, but when you go deeper into their body of work, their content and its invocation of said traits feels more like putting a veneer over a homogenized heterosexual apolitical pandering OnlyFans e-girl aesthetic rather than revealing, my brain is dying, the progressive markers of an alt or goth person who is simply engaging in sex work. Yes, I do want my sex workers to be woke, because their ability to do this is built entirely thanks to the suffering and dying of previous sex workers and feminists in the past. Pay your dues. Now, with all of this context in mind, where do you stand on the reaction to the OnlyFans goths' self-proclaimed gothness? Does it seem like people are being gatekeepy? Are said people spot on in their analysis? Personally, I think it's a little bit more complicated, because while many people, I'm sure, would be inclined to call these women posers simply because of the expression of their content, I 100% believe that most of them are legit fans of goth and alt style, and even the, e-girl shit like anime and video games and Monster and all that. Like, as I said, all these things that aren't present in the Bible, I believe they like them. I think it's completely believable that many of them grew up as weird internet shitters, or at least adjacent to weird internet shitters, such as you and me. I know what you are. I know what you've seen. I believe they identify as alt and goth outside of the trend factor, like Pinkychu, who is one of the biggest OnlyFans goth girls, who has drawn much ire for her shenanigans despite provably showing she has kind of been the awkward, edgy, nerdy alt person since childhood. Don't get me wrong here, there are absolutely some opportunists who simply don gothness for the trendy marketability, like this person who has 2 separate accounts, one just for goth shit. I realize that this is kind of a broader tactic that OnlyFans people use, as spinning off entirely separate accounts for like different sub fetishes. Like this person who made an entirely separate account to do weird, horny, conservative propaganda shit. Sure. On the flip side though, as I mentioned earlier about what it means to be part of a culture, what are these girls actually doing for that culture though? I think it's very useful to compare with other goth creators, people like Madame Absinthe or Beverly Strange, and there is an immediate sense of tangible difference in the look and feel of their online presence. The framing in their content, the expression of fashion, the context they provide, the education they do, the flavor of risque type content, the active promotion of culture and events. Like, despite both of these two kinds of goths labeling themselves as goth, there is an immediate identifiable difference in aura when put side by side, and it very much feels like a hydrogen bomb versus a coughing baby. And I know, we all have different like preferences and tastes or whatever, but like, come on, man, this shit is so fucking cool. This is so cool. Anyways, despite my accidentally having these OnlyFans goths get aura farmed on in my video, I do believe in general their altness is real, and it's a little bit unfair to call them posers or fakes. But obviously, there is the follow-up question. Why do they still feel like that though? Alright, so you know as well as I do, the dudes who watch this shit don't care if it's real, right? Right? The average gooner sees black equal goth, and the question of authenticity around these women's love for anime shit, all things video games, if they're actually always horny or needy or whatever they need to leverage for the algo at any given moment, doesn't matter, because these guys just want to see X girl do Y thing. I encourage you to fill in the blank with whatever you can think of. You can probably find that somewhere on the internet. That simple formula is why these women and their content feel so easily interchangeable. There is so little distinct features between them when put up to a microscope outside of relatively minor difference in execution. I mean, shit, it took me a hot second to realize that the people I was seeing come up were different people and not the same one over and over again. It's important for their content not to present someone outside the norms of the ecosystem that their target audience desire, because being able to fit into and feed into a database of traits that people can mindlessly consume is one of the major keys, not just in their version of success, but in success as a whole in this online ecosystem. I hope the irony of alt and goth people doing this is not lost on you. In turn, there is a difference in aura that is the result of goth being stripped of its texture in service of making money on the internet, as opposed to being more authentic and personal in its presentation. This, I believe, is why the OnlyFans goth label has been applied to these women by people who are not in their consumer base, and also just people hating sex workers. To some people, honkers are honkers, but to others, the texture of their content is effectively no different from other women flooding skit-based, fantasy-oriented, risque pandering, and shock value content into the algorithm to pull traffic for their source of income. I am not saying this to be derogatory. I am not saying this to pass a judgment on how different people find empowerment, and neither should you. I'm pointing this out to show how a subculture can look and feel significantly different within the context of capital and the goals of the members within that subculture. Because this kind of content is just one of many flavors of algorithm-based content that feels like an amalgam of recognizable, monetizable elements disconnected from any deeper culture whatsoever, so it can be assembled for a specific audience. But women and sex workers just get way more flack for this because society hates both of them. The woman's quirk chungus OnlyFans videos are the man's masculine body language ebook for $39. There is versions of this kind of content that exists for perfectly transparent marketing of nudes and simple grooming and self-confidence advice, but that is not happening here. I am super willing to support small businesses, be their product personal encouragement or butthole pictures, but I like mine to have some soul. In his 2001 book, Otaku, Japan's Database Animals, Azuma Hiroki proposed the idea of the database animal, a breed of consumer less interested in the grand narrative or origin of the products they consume than in experiencing a set of desired traits regardless of the authenticity or narrative depth behind their presentation. Azuma argues this kind of consumer has become animalized, gratifying a craving for certain traits directly without the mediation of a grand narrative or of anyone else involved in that process of satisfaction. In other words, exactly what I just told you in my 2 previous paragraphs. Think of the people who tear through interchangeable shonen or isekai or the lit RPG genre, hundreds of works effectively running the exact same trait set with no real characters, a whisper of a story, and no one really reading them kind of cares about either of those things. They want to see John, a man, get transported into another world and fight some guys and get some powers and kiss some girls. Gross. Think of the people inhaling every copy-paste romantasy on the shelf. Think of gacha game players rolling for the same archetypes over and over and over, indifferent to whatever lazy story and 7,000 currencies has been bolted on around them, paying money for 2D women who are just a bundle of traits, which, wait, hold on, that sounds an awful lot like what's happening with the 3D women we're talking about. And to be clear here, quality is not really a factor here. The stuff that they like doesn't have to be bottom of the barrel wish fulfillment. It just happens to be most of the time because the gauge of quality that they have is not one produced of a molded personal taste, but a checklist of things that they simply wish to see. A consumer like this can relate to objects with deep narratives and objects with none in the exact same way, because in what Azuma calls database consumption, the grander narrative, backstory, and origin of such traits are irrelevant. Somebody could watch Frieren and Mushoku Tensei back to back because they just want to watch some fantasy, they want to see some magic and some sword fights, they want to see some adventure, and they could get the exact same experience, even though Frieren is incredible and Mushoku Tensei is one of the worst things ever made. Fuck you. Applying the database animal to our situation, this is the embodiment of the unseasoned chicken breast of a man viewing an OnlyFans goth girl the exact same way he would an actual goth. There is no difference to him because he wants the traits, the aesthetic, and not the person or the subculture. While there doesn't need to be a literal database to house traits for this phenomena to exist, social media like TikTok, Instagram, and Twitch are the ultimate databases for the database animals because the innate searchability and categorization through systems like hashtags and algorithms make them the perfect vehicle for this mode of consumption. And as you probably guessed, our little consumers don't just eat from the database, but they actively influence it through the exact same system. Every search, every view, every second of watch time, every horny/angry little comment is a vote for which traits stick around, and the algorithm counts those votes and shovels more of what ever got a reaction down your gaping maw of a feed. Demand doesn't just get satisfied by the database, it curates it. Those elements that reliably make men or rage baities react and click those links gets amplified and recombined with others that do the same thing, and the ones that do not do that quietly go off to die. The norms created from this feedback system are then reflected back out towards the people in the ecosystem, thus completing our loop. Major deviance gets punished with irrelevancy, while minor deviance introduces a new trait that can be incorporated into said ecosystem for a new burst of life, like goth as a subgenre of alt. This burst of life is obviously not guaranteed, but that is where these new trends come from. Romance books got a little bit boring. Put some fairies in it. Making fun of Gen Z slang is not really maybe as hot as it used to be. let's get some old people to do it actually. And the same old alt e-girl cosplay bait not driving people to click the links like they used to. Point being here is that these women's gothness or altness is real, but the standards and norms they have to fulfill for that realness are not the same for you and I, both internally and externally. They are not governed by the storied and complex nature of actual goth and alternative subculture, but by this homogenous, unsalted, male-focused, profit-oriented e-girl internet ecosystem. That reality creates the very unique situation in which the outsiders of this culture, who are the animalistic consumers of it, are the ones who end up setting the standards instead of those claiming to herald it. The true gatekeepers of their gothness are not the real goths or the smarty pants video essayists like myself trying to make a point, but their consumers and their database, which could take their gothness away in an instant if favor is lost. That's what makes the poser question so interesting here, is that these women are not new to the space. They are not try-harding. They are not faking it. They are living authentically in a metaphysical copy of goth and alt culture, impossible to untangle from internet culture as a whole, that they, at least presented in their content, view the same as the actual tangible goth and alt subculture. But in theirs, the diverse progressive counterculture origins are leveraged only to take advantage of the sexually liberated alt woman stereotype, but in a way that fits the existing straight white apolitical male-centric internet space. It's basically another version of being one of the good ones. That phenomenon should be pretty recognizable, from these goth girls dressing up in Temu Harry Potter outfits, to women making rather lazy anti-feminism or anti-woke videos, to women being friends with people like Asmongold, or literally working with a corrupt administration to cover up the Epstein files. But what if I told you that one of the main OnlyFans goth girls, Pinkychu, the self-proclaimed leader of the goth movement, used to date the brain-damaged gooner / self-admitted right-wing grifter / now legally labeled sexual abuser as per Pinkychu's own course case against him, Tectone. Many people assume that those who take on the role of the good ones are simply acting in ways to accomplish a calculated grift, but dating Tectone? Like, I can think of any level of mental gymnastics routine capable of getting a high enough score to justify that. Very mystifying events like this coupling illustrate a deeper level of complexity in regards to these good ones, these stereotype-fueled goth girls, and all other internet amalgams, to help show the final piece of this black lipstick-covered puzzle is beyond opportunistic scheming. It is much closer to bargaining. In the mid-20th century, after wartime, women had grown accustomed to the option of wearing more practical mobile clothing due to being in the workforce, as represented by the classic Rosie the Riveter. Let's be honest, they always were in the workforce, especially poor women and women of color, but history doesn't like either of those groups, so they don't matter. Anyways, in 1947, Christian Dior's new look went in the complete opposite direction, reimposing cinched waists, padded hips, and voluminous skirts reflecting the post-war conservative turn that pushed, not poor, women back into traditional gender roles and renewed the ideology of domesticity, with Dior's ideal woman reimagined as a beautiful object to admire. Coco Chanel's famous quip, "Dior doesn't dress women, he upholsters them," perfectly captures the defining mid-century class of ideology between women and men like Dior. Coco did a lot of really sick things for diversifying and modernizing women's fashion, so it really fucking sucks that she was a giga-racist and a Nazi collaborator. Fuck. Women are allowed to like the kinds of dresses that Dior made, but ignoring the context of why they were made, by who, and in the time that they were with the systems in place is just as dumb and irresponsible as ignoring the context, analyzing everything we've been talking about. Times are different, obviously. Capri Sun exists and we have the word sexual harassment now. We didn't until the 70s, but the system remains. That shit about sexual harassment not existing until the 70s is true, by the way. Look up Lynn Farley. It's pretty fucked up. Now, I haven't been breaking down all of these colorful examples to illustrate that these women are simply cold, calculating content machines, or they have no agency and are unaware that their malleable little female brains are but putty to be molded by the dominant male culture that we live in. I am not... Insert your favorite internet chud here. I also don't think that these women are secretly miserable or couldn't want to look or dress for themselves in all of these colorful outfits that I have to censor constantly. I personally do not subscribe to the Ariel Levy brand of feminism, which basically says that empowerment isn't real and women have internalized the male gaze so much that they self-objectify believing it's liberation, that the anti-feminist goalposts have simply shifted and women who put their tits out are too lost in the sauce to realize that. I think that frames women as idiots and people who are fundamentally unable to comprehend the systems that they live under and invalidate their efforts to find self-actualization and joy. I also think that men who complain about women putting their tits out for money are stupid morons and cowards. Put your tits out, bitch. I believe a much closer explanation can be found in Denise Candiotti's Bargaining with Patriarchy. Her concept of the patriarchal bargain basically says that women strategize within a set of concrete constraints, adopting whatever strategy maximizes security and life options under the specific rules of the game that they face. This keeps women's agency intact because they are framed as negotiating, not being fooled, and it also explains points of complicity, why women can resist chances to upend the patriarchal status quo, not participate in or even act against feminist movements, and even work to uphold the very rules and structures that devalue them to begin with. Whether those acts are performed with ignorance or calculation, it is to a degree a survival strategy, and I'd wager not just women, but everybody who lives in a minority position has some experience with this concept, with bargaining in some way for security based off of how you exist. An added layer of complexity here is that men, and society in general, consistently put women in the double bind of being fetishized as virgins or whores. Shout out Julia Serrano in my last video where I talk about this more. No matter how they portray themselves, because men made commodifying women valuable. Men make commodifying a lot of dumb fucking bullshit valuable. It's stupid and sexist to complain about women trying to get a piece of that pie for themselves when men have been doing it the entire fucking time. If a woman wants to hustle playing the perfect prudish princess or embody the Guck 3000, like, go off, queen. Sex work is work. Get your fucking bag. And that bag can legit be crazy. Like, the wealth to be had on OnlyFans is truly astronomical. Like, if you can play the system and beat out the fact that the average annual earnings are only about $1,300 because the top 0.1% of creators capture 76% of all revenue, being in that top margin sounds like a pretty sweet place to be. And assuming these stats are accurate, considering only 4.2% of men only ever actually spend money, and over 80% of that spending is in the first 48 hours of finding a creator, you gotta maximize your chances of success. So there really isn't much room for deviation outside the norm here. The system this environment exists in likes the parts of you that you're willing to negotiate and bargain with, the bits you're willing to modify uncritically to fit its entirely metrics-oriented version of success, because that's just how things work. That's why the people who grew up in this kind of environment and have essentially zero qualms about how it functions can be so ridiculously successful. Their form of success isn't built on subjective definitions of satisfaction, creativity, or ethics, but objective ones defined by the algorithm or the system or whoever built whatever structure they are beholden to. Remember, the qualifications for these goth girls' gothness exist in a fundamentally different plane of existence. I believe that they and everybody who does this kind of opportunistic garbage making are at least somewhat aware of all of this. Enough at least for them to be able to work the space with varying levels of success. Now, whether or not they care or understand this in a political, systemic, or philosophical context is another question entirely, and one I don't want to presume the answer to. But if they do understand that they are optimizing and stereotyping a culture and group of vulnerable people, their culture and group of vulnerable people, with bullshit algo-bait content in order to make money off of the kinds of people who dehumanize said previously mentioned vulnerable people, that's not a very good look. However, if they're simply like the disconnected apolitical men that they cater to and work with and genuinely don't understand how people from their subculture could take issue with the strategy infused into their algo-bait content, that is also not a good look. There are enough men on the internet who reduce women to simple accessories already, so I cannot blame other alternative women for not wanting other women to engage and work in this male-dominated field. Additionally, I don't think it's unreasonable to argue that the work of sex workers and feminist activists who are the reason why these women can do sex work in much safer confines than the past is being taken advantage of by selling their work with stereotypes to people who hate those feminist activists. I mean, shit, man, like the biggest OnlyFans creator in the world just virginity baits men based on how she looks adjacent to a child. People on both ends of this transaction don't really sit right with me. And to be clear, men are the driving force behind this. They champion their own dehumanization as well as women's. As I said, there are many men with accounts and products that exist essentially because they have no problem leveraging women as fetish objects. From the dating show guys to the horribly misogynistic Fresh and Fit / whatever podcast to people like Daddy Ditto who just have alt girls on their stream to be horny, or this Brad Padre guy whose content is entirely built around chasing trends out of the database and baiting men with alt baddies. Like, obviously, again, the products like gamer subs and many video games whose existence and success is predicated entirely on their buyers not really viewing women as people. Like, men fucking suck. It is their fault this is happening. But the women who participate as one of the good ones do bring about varying levels of harm regardless of their intention. The gains that they personally get from participating in this way are worth any downsides that might incur from their actions, whether they are panderingly goth posting, making anti-feminist YouTube videos, being shitty politicians, or any other flavor of this you can think of. Oh, but Noah, the women are choosing to do this. They're not being forced to do it. Why are you saying like it's a problem? Some people can and do try to rationalize things like this by saying whatever a woman chooses to do is feminism. And in my opinion, that is stupid. This is choice feminism, and it's bad because it centers the individual rather than everybody, rather than the collective. It's saying if a woman wields her right to make a decision that harms everybody, then that is fine because it is her choice, is an incredibly dumb thing to say because it is utilizing a collective fight for freedom and equality to enable individuals to do harm. People like Elizabeth Holmes or Sheryl Sandberg aren't empowered feminist girl bosses. They're criminals. Just like how women utilizing harmful patriarchal tropes in an already vulnerable subculture to get money from toxic men is not feminist. It is exploitative and shitty. Once again, all women are constantly battling abuse from normal guys based on stereotypes. Organizations like the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, which was founded in honor of the murder of a young goth woman and her boyfriend, work to deal with hate crimes and abuse against alternative people because it is very prevalent. The results of a survey that they published talking to about 300 alternative people show that 80% of those participants has been the victim of at least one of the forms of hate crimes that they listed on a regular or occasional basis, which completely tracks based off of my personal experience and the personal experience of every alt person I have ever known. I'm really trying to emphasize that bashing these kind of opportunistic people for simple sexualization or fetishization or doing sex work or any number of isolated reasons is largely pointless and self-serving because it will have zero effect on what they choose to do. From the OnlyFans goths to the looks maxers to the guys selling the male ebooks for $39, they don't give a shit about any of us here from over in their alternate reality. Instead, what we have to do over here is ask why people still wish to occupy these kinds of roles at all, and use the answers that we come up with to dismantle the systems that make occupying them profitable. People like Pinkychu, who have been in the culture for a long time, may have started out as the average baby bat poking her head around the alternative world, but over time moved into this other realm. In my opinion, she fell into a version of the culture whose lines are nearly indistinguishable from that of the generally commodified, unified culture at large without maybe even realizing it. It's a version built off of bargains that don't even really feel like bargains because critique of the definitely apolitical space is actively discouraged, as is engagement with external goth people, community, and politics because they would taint the brand-safe goth culture that hasn't even been curated by goths themselves. It is true goth by database. Once again, I would like to return to our comparison of the OnlyFans goth girl with that of other goth creators such as Beverly Strange, and I hope the difference feels more apparent now. People like Beverly are involved in the community. She helps shares and goes to events and music. She participates in just sick as hell goth fashion. Sure, she isn't afraid to be political, and yes, obviously, once again, the spicy shoots are fire. They're so cool. Between Beverly and Madame Absinthe, like, look at the camera angles, look at the costuming, look at the weirdness that feels simultaneously personal, but drenched in historical influence from their own visions of the culture. Like, fuck, it's so cool. It's so cool. Posts from people like this, as well as posts from goth men, goths of color, any kind of goth besides this feels like they are swelling with reverence for goth and the culture without losing their personality. All of these people have this intentionally off-putting weirdness that is just so beautiful without being disrespectful or harmful to their peers or the cultures that they want to represent. I feel like I'm looking through posts made by people who are a part of a culture and not pieces of a culture extracted to make a product at any cost. That's the kind of shit that keeps bringing me back to the internet, that keeps me in subcultures and interacting with people. It's why I wanted to start making stuff to put that out there. And it's also why I spend so much time worrying if I am actually doing that. Beep, beep, motherfuckers, editing me here, and I am annoyed. So the video that I was going to open my end section with was removed from YouTube because the channel was terminated, even though that video has been on YouTube for 3 years. Fucking sucks. See, this video that I wanted to show was of our aforementioned goth girl, Pinkychu, before she was the goth we all know and love now. She used to be a cutesy pink-haired VTuber, and in the video that I was going to show you, this was a face reveal. It was her transitioning from doing just VTuber stuff to showing her real face on the internet, and I believe making a legitimate plea for people to, you know, engage with the real her, for her to be more sincere, to, you know, she mentioned wanting to like share the cosplays that she likes so much and interact with people more because VTubing is restrictive, all completely makes sense. But it was very odd because doing this face reveal when you could see her face. Like, she was still doing the ditzy VTuber voice, still doing the mannerisms. There was still this veneer of persona over this supposed actual her that she wanted people to see. And despite wanting people to see the real her, given everything she's doing now, I can't help but that video was very much kind of a ground zero for a lot of what we talked about, given that it's 3 years old. So, because I didn't want my very cool ending to go to waste, I made a little recreation of that video from the best of my memory. So, I hope you enjoy. Fuck you, YouTube. Stop ruining my shit. So you know the main goth girl I mentioned, Pinkychu? This is her a few years ago. She was a VTuber before she became what she is now, and well, I want to show you one of her old videos. A face reveal. Hello guys, it's me, Pinkychu, your favorite VTuber, and I'm doing my face reveal today. Here we go. Wah, it's me. Hello, this is my face. I like doing VTubing, and it's been good, but I want people to see the real me. I want people to see my cosplays more. I want to, live authentically. I've had, like anxiety and stuff in the past, and doing this has like helped me a lot. And now I want to be more myself. I want to express myself. How do people do the fucking VTuber voice? This is my real face. I'm excited to share more stuff with you, and I'm still gonna do the VTubing, but this is me. This is who I am, and I hope I get to be more authentic with you from me. Yeah. Who I can't help but feel like out of all of the things that I've seen of her so far, this is the one that feels the most faceless. It's weird, isn't it? There's a very real vulnerability in putting yourself and your face on the internet like this, but what bothers me is she didn't drop the VTuber voice. She didn't drop the persona. During what was supposed to be a moment of authenticity, a plea for acceptance and desire for openness, I genuinely have a hard time believing this wasn't just another calculated move, because that's what everything after this has kind of felt like. I don't want to think that. It feels bad to think that. It probably is a real moment of vulnerability, but that moment is surrounded by performance diffusing the believability. We all exist as performers on the internet in one way or another. Like particles of light, our trajectory is changed just by being observed. It can be a detriment or a boon to yourself or other people, and the only way not to lose yourself is to be mindful of friction. It could be your own mind telling you something is wrong. It could be other people expressing their taste and worry. These points of friction are what create the boundaries for culture to exist, as well as the boundaries of your own person. But when is that friction good or bad? How do you know when to push and when to give? How do you really know if you're doing harm or not? These can be hard choices, sifting through the noise, but the worst choice is ultimately making none at all. A very dangerous thing about the internet is that it is very good at making choices for you. There's a desire for an objectively correct, frictionless existence built into much of what society teaches us that's amplified within our digital echo chambers, a tantalizing lack of complexity. If you find that right space, if you find that right audience, it can decide which friction is good and bad for you before you even realize the decision has been made. You can slide into a perfect little hole that feels like it was shaped just for you, sometimes entirely unaware of the bargains you've made along the way to mold yourself into the shape of that hole. Recession disguised as progress. And I get it. I truly do. Filtering the friction every day constantly is exhausting. I make jokes with my friends all the time about selling out. How easy it would be to just settle for what I make, to make content whose only metrics for success are clear as day, leveraging easy audiences to capitalize on, flooding the same paint by numbers database slop with no wasted mental energy on things like my own vision of creativity or any personal standards I may have. Just mindlessly pulling that lever over and over, aiming to win the content lottery just like so many others. Assuming I actually win the lottery that these goth girls won, that the manosphere guys won, the YouTube chuds, the shitty politicians. I don't come from money. I worry about losing my 9-to-5 job on a whim every day of my life. I cannot remember the last moment I have felt a shred of stability in my existence. And I would be lying if I didn't say that I was jealous of people making more money doing shit like this in a month than I make in a year. But those same friends I joke with are the same ones that keep me in check. The same ones that I keep in check. They recognize the same cruel reality I do, yet we collectively pursue the naive idea of making something better. We work through the friction together with care and anger and hope and perseverance. We push each other to envision ways to live they're better, not just for ourselves, but hopefully everyone else. Those are the kinds of people that you want to surround yourself with, and not the kind who avoid friction altogether. There's a level of intimacy and connectedness that can only be gained by willingly engaging with those points that people with this opportunistic, individualist mindset do not want to acknowledge. That's why they paradoxically weaponize choice and avoid it. It's why they purge complexity or justify the very lucrative database. That's why words like context, history, politics, or harm are never seen or entirely brushed away. They make whatever space they've been invoked in immediately more complicated, and complication is a whole lot of friction. In this very libertarian world, friction is very bad for business. And when you are the business, that becomes removing the friction that makes you you. You don't even have to think about what friction is good or bad because the choice is made for you, just because that's how things work in this alternate reality. That goth girl's apology and everything that came after it shows that her choice was made for her. Everyone lost in the churn of financialized, thoughtless opportunism has had their choice made for them. And their thoughtless, harmful vision of success they value oh so much keeps them from realizing that. Because why should they? Clearly, they're doing something right. And I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't sound very goth to me. Yay, we did it. Thank you for watching. The Patreon scroll is going on now. If you want to be on the cool Patreon scroll, go to the cool Patreon and subscribe, and also subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. This video was very much, I would say, a companion piece to my last video about men and masculinity and man cereal, and kind of continuing on this thought journey I have been on as to how society is a complicated beast, and systems that may incentivize certain kinds of behaviors are not the best for creating wholesome, prosperous, and harmless environments. And I think how people interact with those and perceive harm and culture and the boundaries of all of these things is really interesting and really worth talking about. And I really hope that I was successful in making it clear that, like, this isn't a woman problem, this isn't a sex worker problem. Like, the exact expression of their specific content is simply an extension of a broader cultural malaise of monetization and incentivization through how algorithms and just kind of in general reward structures in the society that we live in function, whether or not people like me actually like how they function. I think taking a look at how, people play into this or don't play into this, and this week is really uncomfortable. And I really wanted to make sure, again, sex workers, women, not the problem. Sex work is real work. God bless all of y'all. I will fight to my dying day for you to put all your weird, horny shit on the internet. Like, fucking men. But yeah, this was fun to work on. Production wasn't as crazy this time because life has been crazy, and I feel like I've been a little bit creatively dissatisfied to a certain degree. So I really went back to basics for this one. Still had some fun, but I think I'm almost out of that now, and I got some neat ideas for what's coming up. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the video. I'd love to hear what other people think about this, any things you disagree with me on, any perspectives you think I missed. I did my best to try to talk about groups of people who are not me in a respectful, nuanced way within this grand ecosystem that I am discussing. But obviously, I am imperfect. Despite being a, queer, bisexual, non-binary dude, I'm still a white dude, obviously. So I love hearing from people who are not me. And I would love to hear, obviously, from the goths and the alts, the femmes, the non-femmes, the dudes. Shout out alt goth dudes. Y'all are sick as fuck. But I hope this was a good watch, and I hope you enjoyed it. And check out the Patreon. Check out the more videos if you haven't. And yeah, I'm done with this wig. Oh my god. Oh, it's caught on my hair clip. Oh, everything's falling apart. Oh, I need both hands for this. I need both hands to get out of it. So I'm gonna go. But you got no way. I did it. Just kidding. I'm a fucking goat. Okay. See you next time. Also, I have a second channel, by the way. Yay. Goodbye.